Hey guys, Kier here, and originally this was just gonna be like an Invincible review, but in like the middle of me making the review, I started talking a bit about the boys, so I decided, I'm gonna do something a bit different, and really just make this like a versus battle. I guess I'm not gonna like try to say who's like the better verse or the stronger verse. But I'm gonna say like which series I believe is better when it comes to either enjoyment or writing, or like for example, I'll say whether I think Mark is better or Huey is better, whether I think the side characters are more interesting in the boys than they are in Invincible, or the antagonists, you know what I'm saying? So I'm really just gonna go like similar to how I would be doing in a review, but I'll like talk about one, I'll talk about the other, then I'll compare the two, and then I'll say which I believe is better for each one, right? But yeah, pretty simple concept, not too difficult. So let's just get straight into it. The first thing I'm going to talk about, as I mentioned, was the main character. Generally, I'll start with like the story or anything, but I want to get to that later. Even if you want to say that either Huey or Butcher is the protagonist, I definitely will say Huey is the protagonist, but if you want to say that they're both protagonists or something, which is a statement I disagree with, in general, I don't think there's any series that has two protagonists except for like Real or something. But if you do think they are both protagonists, I still believe by miles that they're both like Huey and Butcher are better written characters than Mark. Cause first of all, Mark, I'll agree, is a much easier character to like. Right, he's like a kind of like broken, but at the same time underdog character. Right, he's learning to be very powerful, and that's a very easy arc to like. I'm not dissing him by saying that. Right, I still like myself a character like that. But what I'm saying is that Butcher, first of all, I'm gonna talk about Butcher even though Huey, I believe, is the protagonist. He's a much more flawed character, and I definitely would rather like see Butcher on screen than I'd rather see Mark on screen. And I'd much rather learn about Butcher's past than I'd rather see like something that Mark is gonna do for the most part. There are exceptions. But like Butcher is, as I already said, a flawed character. You see him do all these cruel things. Sometimes his justification is horrible, right? But he still is a character that's hard to hate. And okay, maybe he is hard, not that hard to hate, but he's still like a very likable character. His personality is really, I guess, fun for the series. He matches the series greatly and is a great, I guess, like character or contrast to Huey. But as for Huey, right, and now I'm talking about Huey, he's definitely also equally as flawed, just in different ways, right? He might not be like this mass murderer who believes he's doing the right thing, but at the same time, he's trying to resolve violence with violence. And if you've seen literally any situation with that, or even any media, like form of media with that, you'll see that just doesn't work out. So, that's a pretty interesting character. And especially since, like, every episode, he's, like, this close to ticking. Some episodes he does just, like, snap, and other episodes he somehow keeps it in. But I don't know, he's one of those characters that suffers so much and he's just so interesting to see. He's not like other characters who have a super interesting past, but at the same time, he's also just really interesting to see on screen. And I don't know, if you were to, I don't really like care too much about objectivity or writing or anything like that, but if you were to like try to do something with like objectivity or something, I think it would be pretty easy to say that like Huey is just better written and Butcher are better written than Mark, right? And then when it comes to the side characters, there's really like zero competition. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. The only decent side character in my opinion was Eve, and even then she wasn't like the best, she was just there. Whereas the boys has literally anyone around Huey, there's Butcher as well. Right, there's Starlight, there's some people at Vaw, which I don't know if you want to consider antagonists or side characters, but either way they're still good. And also, most characters who get at least an episode of screen time are at least good or entertaining, or if not, they serve a purpose to like not fix, but like further a theme in the series with the superhero thing. Like the Gecko, I think was his name, the guy who can regenerate limbs. He also helps with, I guess, not the theme, but I don't know. He has an interesting little touch to how some people with powers make their money aside from being a superhero. And as for antagonists, personally, there's no competition. Homelander is just miles better than Omni-Man in the show, at least. I haven't read any of the comics, so there's just no competition for me. Vought also has good characters. The Stormfront is pretty decent. I think really when it comes to antagonists, I guess just Homelander is just the better, like the only really good one in the show. The other ones either help to support him or they're just there, they get some screen time. The only complaint I have was like some scenes are either just boring or like some episode, like for example, episode 2 was a struggle to watch. I'm not gonna lie, it took me a few days just to watch it. And for those who have, actually watched the series, episode 2 was the episode where the Deep talks to his gills, and that episode was just a struggle to watch. I'm not gonna lie. Invincible didn't have anything like that, but at the same time, I definitely feel like the boys had higher highs and also lower lows, whereas Invincible was just consistently entertaining. The season finale was good, but I just feel like the season finale for season 2 of The Boys was just better. It was more entertaining. I was more excited. I was more invested in it than I was for the season finale of Invincible. At the same time, that could be in part because I was like kind of spoiled with all the Think Mark Think memes. But really, that was just inevitable. Right? I really couldn't avoid that. But yeah, there's really, but to actually try to give Invincible a win here, when it comes to the story, I definitely feel like Invincible has a more interesting one with more potential. I don't know. I just feel like the whole like multi worlds and everything about like how they do their world building in the planets and stuff like that. It was always really interesting. There's like nice little details everywhere. Whereas the boys, granted, they don't need too much world building because they're in this world, right? And there's nothing much to like expand when the world is your world. But I do like want to say they do explore how like superheroes are in the world differently, and I do prefer the boys' way of doing it, but Invincible, just as a story as a whole, was probably better, and it was just a bit more, I don't know, not unique because I don't know, but it was definitely, I just enjoyed it more. And yeah, when it comes to the story, I definitely give it to the boys. But yeah, I guess when it comes to story, I'll give it to Invincible. When it comes to characters, I'll give it to the boys, like without competition. But to go on to something different, right? When it comes to how they both portray superheroes, I like the boys version because it feels more realistic, right? People are inherently evil, as one guy said. I forgot his name. So I guess it's more realistic. And Invincible also has a good version. It's just, I guess, more idealistic and cartoony, I guess. I don't know. Although they still, not every superhero is like, I don't know, poster hero Superman or something like that, right? When it comes to the themes, I definitely think The Boys does it better, mainly with just the whole superheroes can be evil. I guess like their whole way of like tackling superhero society. And I guess the last comparison at least comes to mind that I could make, and it isn't really much of a fair one, is like how they do with voice acting versus like actual acting. I do, well, it could be unfair, right? But I do think The Boys does it like they're better acting. But there's a really, it's not a fair comparison when one person has animation and voice acting, the other has actual acting. If the acting is done right, it's hard for the animation to beat it, unless it's like, I guess, UFO table animation, and even then you can argue that someone else does better. But yeah, I guess not really a fair comparison. But yeah, The Boys does beat it. Overall, I do enjoy both series. So I don't get me the wrong way. As both shows, right? Because that's all I watched. They're both really good. I'd give Invincible like an 8 or a 7. And I'd give The Boys like a solid 9 or a 9.5. It was really entertaining. I already said it. It's just great. It's the best thing I've watched in a while. I hope season 3 comes soon. I heard like they're like halfway or more with the comics. So I guess there isn't too much like actual content left compared to the Invincible, but not the Invincible. I guess it's like one thing to keep in mind. But that's basically it though. I do plan on reading the comic for Invincible, not really The Boys, because I don't know, I just would not rather read the comic for The Boys, and I haven't heard as much about it. But I'll do another one when I read Invincible. I've heard, right, that the comic is like a 10 out of 10 in every aspect. I'll have to see though, because I don't know. There's been some times where I hear something's a 10 out of 10 in every aspect, and while it still may be good, it's just not the best. It would be my second comic though that I've ever read. The first one was The Killing Joke. So yeah, that's basically all I wanted to mention in this video. If you watched the whole thing, which you probably would be if you're still here, but yeah, if you liked it, let me know what you thought down below. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and peace.